Q&A if you have any more questions. So who are we? So for those of you who don't know, my name is Inge. I'm a DevSecOps advocate here at the DevSecOps Academy. I help to create courses, and I also help to work with fellows who are also creating courses and to manage the DSO fellowship program. So we'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. And my fellow speaker is Rahul.
Yeah. So my name is Rahul Ranjan. I'm a DevSecOps trainer at Everable. I also create trainings time to time in DevSecOps Academy. I have 10 plus years of experience with helping clients design security, implement security within DevOps services. My security skills are from threat modeling, SaaS, DAST, container security, and cloud security.
Great. Thanks so much, Rahul. And also thanks for joining us today. So the DevSecOps Academy is a Dutch startup that is backed by multiple VCs. So a few of you have already tried out our online platform and know that it is a browser-based hands-on labs that we offer in our courses. And if you haven't had a chance yet, you'll have an opportunity to try the course after this session. Our aim is to become the #1 in DevSecOps practical training through our hands-on labs. We're going to be offering services in skill building, upskilling, reskilling, and so forth. So the great thing about our labs is that they are created by experts from all over the world, like Rahul, who is part of our fellowship program. So if you're an expert working in security and you would also like to create your own course, you can find more about that on our website. And you can also just schedule a chat and we can tell you more about it. And here in the office, we're a really fun international team. And if you would like to work in DevSecOps, then you can also find out more about that on our website, or we have a link here in the bottom right-hand corner. So the timeline for this course, it will start today. So after this kickoff session, we'll give you access to the course. In this kickoff session, we're going to tell you more about the topic and the course, as we said previously, and also answer your questions that you might have on this topic. And then you'll have 1 week to complete the course. So our wrap-up session will be next week, Wednesday. And then your access to the course will finish as well at 4 o'clock on the 7th of July. And in this wrap-up session, we'd really be happy if you would join us, because then we'll be evaluating your feedback that you have submitted. And also, if you have any more questions that might have come up during the week, you can also ask them at the wrap-up session. So here you can see a DevOps loop with the DevSecOps categories that we focus on here in the Academy. And we have various learning paths in each category, but compliance as code is a learning path within our cloud security category. And Rahul will be now telling us a bit more about that. Thanks, Rahul.
Yep. So before directly jumping into what is compliance as code, actually, I thought of starting explaining why we need to do it, actually. If you look at the current slide, basically I have tried drawing a kind of standard diagram or way of working within any big organization where there are more than 100 developers. There is security team. They are creating more than like 10, 20 resources all the time, actually. And this is just a one kind of sample example, but then there are much bigger organization. There are much more complex organization as well. And then there is very small organization as well. So when you have an organization size where there are 100 developers and maybe 10 or 20 teams, actually, those who want to go to cloud, or some of them are already on cloud, and they keep on requesting for new resources time to time, you end up having a platform team that can help the development team to create those resources, because you don't want to give access to the cloud infrastructure to all the developers in your organization and then end up having so much complex or so much resources that it is impossible to manage. So basically you hire a platform team, couple of platform engineers, those who create the resources, cloud resources for the teams. And what happens is that once the number of requests from teams start growing, you start growing the size of your platform team, because you need more and more platform engineers to help the different development teams, because development teams want everything today, right now, right away in the current situation of DevOps world, basically. So then you end up start creating a bottleneck for development teams by having a platform team where they have to rely on platform team. They have to raise ticket, they have to wait for the platform team to complete the activity, and then let them know that they have their resources created. And so it becomes much more difficult over a period of time managing all your cloud resources from the management from managing perspective. I haven't jumped into the security part of this yet. So this is one side of the problem actually. Then over a period of time you get some kind of security policy or some kind of security framework from your security team, asking you to make sure that all the cloud resources that you are creating is compliant with some kind of security policy. It can be a number of reasons why the security team want you to be compliant. If you are part of a bank, then because of the bank security policy. And if you are part of a retailer, actually, then retail company have their own security standards. So it varies, but then you have some kind of security standards or framework that needs to be done in every organization, and there is no exception to it. Now, what happened with those applying those security framework or basic policy is that every time a platform engineer or platform team member has to make any changes, he has to read policies all the time actually and make sure that he's compliant to those policy. And it's difficult to manage it because you are already working behind schedule to make sure that there is a cloud resource available for the development team, because there are lots of people waiting on you. So what you end up doing is you end up making mistakes sometime, because obviously you are reading a PDF document or Word document and then you are applying it. Then suddenly security team added one more policy, and you as a platform engineer forget to read that policy or up to date on time, and then you end up having lots of resources not compliant to a new policy. So it adds more complexity to way of working, and basically how you are making the cloud resources available to your teams actually. So these are the challenges that generally any organization with a big number of development teams with the cloud infrastructure facing right nowadays. If you are manually onboarding or creating basically cloud resources for your teams by going through the UI and clicking on every pages. Also, the problem comes, you need to educate your new platform team members. Whenever you hire a new platform team members, you need to educate him from the policy, normal policy, as well as the standards of your organization, in additionally the security policy of your organization. So it becomes much difficult to manage it in long term. So these are the challenges that generally any organization falls into over a period of time. But then there are other solution in right now in there already that can help you basically prevent this kind of issues. So Inge, can you move to next slide? So there is something called infrastructure as a code. Some of you might be already knowing about it, some of you might not. So in general, infrastructure as a code is that you write a piece of YAML file or JSON file basically that instructs what all resources you need and how it should look like. So you define everything in a code file. It may be YAML file, it may be a JSON file. There are other formats as well supported by different tools. They have their own format as well. And then what happens is if you write that such kind of code actually for creating your infrastructure, so you have everything written there, and it is much more visible actually, and it is reusable. So suppose today one of the platform engineers or one of the development teams create a resource for S3 bucket or for network security group or for firewall or for any kind of load balancer actually. That same piece of code can be reused by other teams. They don't need to write it time to time. Sorry. So what happened is that if you are writing infrastructure as a code, actually set of instruction in a file, it is easier for you to share with others, and it is easier for someone to reuse it over a period of time. So you don't need to rely on a team actually who has to log in into the cloud infrastructure and create and provision everything for you. But you have a piece of code, or you create a piece of code, or you update it, you run it through a pipeline, through some kind of executable script actually, and it creates resource for you and it gives back all your details to you. So you don't need to log in into a UI. You don't have to be uh, too much familiar with the UI changes of the cloud infrastructure. You just need to run a piece of code with your modification on top of it, and you get a cloud resource available to you. So you don't have to wait for a platform team or a platform engineer to do it for you. So this is one of the things that infrastructure as a code can help you in long term. It also avoid the mistakes, because when there is a person who is making changes on the UI, he forgets to click on a button actually or select the option, and later on you find it. So you avoid such kind of mistakes because everything is as a code. You can see why it has been changed. You obviously have comments on top of it why something was modified over a period of time. So you reduce the number of errors that someone can make. Obviously, someone can intentionally or unintentionally still can make a mistake, but you reduce the number of mistakes that can happen just by forgetting to click on something. You also eliminate something called configuration drift. Basically, what happened is today you create a VM actually, and then in 1 year you change few things in those VMs actually. And then what happened is you have 3 different VM on 3 different configuration label because you forgot to update one of them actually. And then you have a kind of configuration drift in one of the VM, and then you need to again make it compliant to the previous or other VMs basically. So you eliminate the configuration drift by using infrastructure as a code. You also make sure that you have a consistent way of creating those cloud resources. I talked about reusing the code basically for creating the resource with other teams. So if one team is creating S3 bucket or maybe a VM in certain way, every team is creating in the same standard way. So you don't have inconsistency within your organization. And obviously it is helping you with the deployments that because you're not waiting for someone to do it for you. So these are some of the benefits of infrastructure as a code. There is obviously much more benefits that comes with infrastructure code, but these are some of the important ones that thought should be highlighted. I have also put the logos of some of the tools. There are many more tools that allow you to do this infrastructure as a code. Some of them are Terraform, Puppet, Chef, AWS CloudFormation. You might be knowing some more tools, but these are some of the tools that I found should be highlighted. Yep, thanks, Inge. So now, since you are already writing code actually for creating your infrastructure, and then in the first slide I talked about how you are going to manage your policy, because your policy can also change over a period of time, and you have to manually go through some PDF document, Word document, some kind of documents actually. So it also adds complexity. So instead of having a Word document only that define your policy, if if it is possible to write down as a code, then it becomes much easier for you to maintain, because then you can make sure that same policy is applied. You are not relying on a person who is going to make sure that your infrastructure is compliant to a code, because even the policy is written as a code, and every time your infrastructure as a code is executed, before that it is checked for those policy, and those policies are updated time to time. And then you also get feedbacks on time about those issues that you have. Also saves you time. You don't need to hire so many platform engineers to every time check the document and make sure your resources are um, compliant. It also help you to update it. It's easier to maintain the versioning because you can always go and update your policy, and as soon as you may update the next build or next deployment that is going to happen through infrastructure as a code, it has to be compliant with the latest policy that you just updated. So it becomes easier. It is scalable. It also makes sure that there is some kind of standard and consistency within the organization. There are many way that compliance as a code can be done. There are many solutions that all the cloud providers also provide that can be used for making compliance, some way of doing compliance. And then there are some tools, those are not from some specific cloud vendor, like Open Policy Agent is one of the tool basically that allow you to apply policies or compliance as a code check. Basically, Chekhov is one more tool. We have another training on Chekhov as well for compliance as a code. And then there is a TF-Lint actually. So all of them are different tool. They support different infrastructure as a code tool as well. Not all of them support all of them, but Open Policy Agent is one of them that kind of supports almost all tool as long as you have a JSON output from that tool. Now, how since this training is using Open Policy Agent, but then there are other tools as well. But I'm going to talk more about in context of how OPA policy actually apply your compliance or policy on top of your infrastructure code. So you can see that there is a person drawn on top, and he's requesting for any of the infrastructure. It can be Kubernetes, Docker. There are many more different kind of infrastructure that the person can request. It can be a person, it can be a CI pipeline, it can be anything actually that is requesting for an infrastructure. And when he's requesting, his infrastructure request is kind of a code, and then there is some kind of JSON output basically that can be fed into OPA, right? And then you also create a policy and the data, both are in, at least data is in JSON format, policy you have written in Rego format because it is more of a logical language. You can read more about it on the OPA website. And then OPA tool will basically go through the infrastructure as a code query in the JSON format. It checks the policy and then it applies the policy and then it returns a policy decision, whether it's true, fail. Also, at least OPA policy agent can also respond with list of items or any object, and it will be in a JSON format. And then your tool, if you are doing it in Kubernetes, if you are doing in your Terraform, you can make a decision, like you can make sure your deployment pipeline or deployment script fails based on the decision that is received from OPA policy. It can be based on true, false. It can be based on 0, 1, anything that okay, not okay, actually. So OPA policy is much more open framework for policy decision, and it just return a JSON decision output, and you can basically make sure your script fails pass based on the decision that is written by OPA tool.
Great, thanks so much, Rahul. Well, Rahul's just shared quite a lot with us. Perhaps somebody has a question that you would like to ask. We'll also be looking in the chat. So you can also add your questions in the chat. Or maybe there's something else about compliances code that you had on your mind that you would also like to ask Rahul, our expert. All right, we will carry on, but we'll have another chance for questions at the end. So if any pop into your mind, you can just pop them in the chat and then we'll take a look at the end. So hopefully you have all registered and recognized this page. So I'll just quickly show you how to find the course and talk a bit about the technicalities. So once you have registered here, after this session, you will be gaining access to the course. So all you need to do is go to your courses page, and then you select, it's on the first page. You can select the compliances code with Terraform and OPA course. And then you'll see you'll have access to 2 labs. So one is a preparation lab and one is the hands-on lab. So firstly, you'll have to do the preparation lab. And here we go over the key concepts that you will require for the hands-on lab. So it'll tell you more about Terraform, it'll tell you more about OPA, about policy rules. And then finally, once you have completed the prep lab, then you'll be asked to take a quiz. You do only get 4 attempts, so please use them wisely. They should be enough. And you always have chance you can go back to your prep lab and take a look at the information again and use it to answer your question. It's just mainly to help you be prepared for the hands-on lab. So once you have done your quiz, then you can go to the hands-on lab and select start. But please only start your hands-on lab when you know that you have 3 hours to sit down and complete it in one go, because you can't pause it. It's just meant to do at one time. And you'll also see that you'll get a warning box that pops up that says you only have one attempt and 180 minutes, which is 3 hours to complete it. You should be able to do it in 3 hours, but maybe if you're not as familiar with Terraform and haven't worked a lot with it, it might be a bit trickier, or you haven't worked with OPA before. Then we are a bit lenient now and we can give you more time. So you can just reach out to us. Yeah, and then we can grant you some more time. At the end of your lab, you'll see that there will be a button that says check results. So if you do not select check results, then your lab won't be submitted for review and it will be automatically destroyed when your time runs out. So if you haven't asked for an extension and you think you've done everything correctly, then just select check results and either you'll automatically pass due to the automated checking that everything is fine, or one of our team members will take a look at it and you'll get your results in a day or so. So as I said, there is automated checking. Here in the right, you will see these check marks that are next to the names of the step. So as you progress through each step, if you have an assignment and you've done it correctly, then you'll see that you'll get a check mark next to the name of the step. Otherwise, you'll have a warning that asks you to go and check your step and make sure that you've done everything correctly. If you're sure that you've done everything correctly and it's behaving as it should, there might be a chance that our automated checking doesn't cover the answer, because sometimes there are many ways that you can complete a step. So you can always submit it and then we'll check it for you, or you can reach out to our technical team. But usually if you follow the steps, then it should work. If you get stuck somewhere, we do have hints and solutions that are available for you. So just take a look at those. But if you run out of time or you submit the lab and one step wasn't completed correctly, we can give you a retry. So don't worry about that. The main thing is we want you to learn and enjoy the experience. We do have a support button available. So here in the right-hand corner, you see this green circle. It will also be in the bottom right-hand corner of your hands-on lab. You can just select the support button and you'll be connected to our support team. And then this is quite valuable if you have any technical issues in your lab. Then you can let us know and we can try and get those sorted out for you. Or if you have any feedback that you'd like to give there, we welcome that as well. So we do still have sometimes some bugs that pop up, and everything is not perfect yet, unfortunately, but we are working on getting all the issues ironed out. So we really appreciate if we do get your feedback, and that's why we also have events like this, because we would like to improve and get your feedback to know how we can improve the platform and also the courses. As I said, we'd really like you to enjoy the experience. So if you need more time or if you need another go, that's more than okay. You just reach out to us and we'll try and help you and support you as best as we can. So if you complete it successfully, and we really want everyone to complete it successfully, you will get a practitioner certificate that you can share on LinkedIn or wherever you like. And it has your name on it, and it says that you've successfully completed this course. Right. That brings us to another opportunity for questions. If you have any questions for me or for Rahul, you can ask them right now. Hans has a question. Who is Oliver Wasp? That is a secret tester that we have working here. Okay, I will take a look in the chat and see if there are any questions that Hans hasn't already answered.
I think Inge Hans is asking, explain support.
Okay. All right. So the support button, it's like a support bot. So it's our support bot. And if you have any technical questions, if you have any course-related questions, then you can ask it. You can go to our bot and see maybe somebody has asked a question already. So then you will be led to an answer from a previously asked question. But if it is an exceptional issue, then we will connect you to one of our team members. Hope that answers sufficiently, but Hans, if you would like to explain it in another way, please feel free. Okay, yeah, and then Pradeep asked how many events we are planning to conduct. Yeah, like as Hans said, we don't know yet. So it is for our, because we've just gone live, so it is as a part of our launch campaign. So we're hosting a series of events right now, but it's also a big part, in part to help us improve the platform. So we really appreciate your feedback and taking part. So we do have a few more events already lined up. So you can go look at our LinkedIn page or on our website. You just keep an eye because we're going to be posting. I think we still have 3 already planned, but perhaps there'll be some more after that. And as the courses will get unlocked just after the session is complete. Yeah. So probably in like the next 10 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, and that's why it says, Sundar, you need to still purchase it because they're not open yet. And you'll get a mail as well that tells you that you now have access to the hands-on lab. Oh, and now we're being asked about hints. What are the Saktivil? I hope I'm saying your name right. You asked what are the different lab exercises. So you'll find out soon enough in the next few minutes. But you can also go look at I can give you a hint. You'll be working with OPA and Terraform, and you will also be in some of the exercises creating OPA policies and applying them.
And it is for AWS, just to let you know the cloud.
Thanks, Rahul. Oh, let's see. Sagar. So Sagar, we can give you a time extension if you say which lab it was for, which course it was for. So you can ask for a time extension in the little support button. But if you just tell us right now, then we can also extend it. Oh, and then we also, Hans has asked me to talk about the cookbook. So it's just some instructions that help you to set it up on your local machine and use OPA and Terraform as we are using it in GitLab. Then we have a question from Abhishek. Maybe this is for you, Ro.
Yeah, I'm responding to him on chat, but I can also say that in the voice that what happened is as long as there is a JSON output that your infrastructure as a code tool provides, you can write a OPA policy because OPA policy can be written for any JSON basically data.
Okay, thanks, Rahul. And will the labs cover some aspect of this writing OPA policies?
No, the current lab So the current lab, we don't have, so the exercises in our current lab is more focused on showing how OPA policy work.
Okay.
It doesn't cover right now the part how to write policy, but we do have plans to add it, because when we created this lab, our goal was not to focus on OPA policy only, but now we are planning to also add some exercises focusing on how policies are written.
But you do get a slight indication of how policies are written. So we've explained it on a higher surface level so that you're able to complete the assignments. But yeah, we're planning to go more in depth in the future. But you can give us some feedback on that once you've completed it and tell us what you would like to have extra. And that would be really helpful as well, Abhishek.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Thanks for your feedback, Chandraska.
Inge,
Yeah.
on introduction to we have different courses listed. Under that, is there any timeline for completing the labs? Like, for each courses we have 72 hours. So we have similar restriction for introduction tour as well?
Yeah, so for in the introduction tour, you get, because these are very, very small labs that are only intended to introduce you to the topic. So you only get 2 hours per lab, but you can do them whenever you like. And they're free as well. So once you've done the whole introduction tour, then you get this certification. So it's not per course that you get a certification, but once you've completed the whole tour. But yeah, it's 2 hours per lab, because this is different style. So now we're having the event, and then we give you usually like 4 days or 1 week. But there it's just whenever you like, you can do the courses.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks for your question, Freddie. All right, so I think if there's no more questions, then I think we have completed the event for today, but we'd be really happy to see you on next week on Wednesday for the wrap up, and feel free to reach out to us during the next week as well. And I think Hans has opened the courses now, so you have access to them. All right. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.